righty. Good evening and welcome to our May 13th Traffic Commission meeting for this day. If we go ahead, we'll stand for the invocation and the flag salute. I'll do this. Father, we're thankful this evening to come together to discuss the issues that have been brought to us tonight, dealing with traffic concerns and other things that involve modes of transportation in this town. We ask that you be with us this night in our decisions. Amen. Excuse me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Call the roll.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Peters,
Here.
Puckett,
Here.
Lee, Rather,
Here.
Okay, discuss and approve the minutes from the March 11th Traffic Commission meeting.
Make the motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, we got a few visitors here this evening. If you will, introduce yourself. You get a minute?
Colton Wayman with Wallace Engineering.
Okay,
Patrick Altendorf with Wallace
Okay.
Engineering. Travis Reynolds with Black Church.
okay,
Tim Knox with Black Church.
okay,
Good evening, Vicki Davis with City of Yukon Main Street.
okay. Thank you very much. All right, the first item on the agenda, item number 3 here is request for stop signs at East and West on Vandeman Avenue at Kings Ridge Drive. I believe you have a email from Miss Susan Ingalls. Let me get there. Stating the reason why she's requesting this. And I don't know if y'all had a chance to read that or not yet, that email. Some of the things that I looked at, this is where we have the sort of a dual jurisdiction out there, because unfortunately Southwest Covenant is in Oklahoma City, and then on the north half is the city of Yukon. And her major complaint is just trying to get in and out of there, especially when school's in session. They're bringing the kids in and dropping them off during the morning and then picking them up in the afternoon, which is quite common. Plus, you go back east, there's a residential area back in there has been developed and is continuing to be developed out there, Mar-a-Lago. And if you go a little further over the bridge, there's a, for lack of a better word, basically a small set of apartments back there, and they're adding on also to the back at this time. The other thing I had a question with this is, what kind of backup are we getting out there during the day? And I know it's pretty bad during school at this point, but they're, I believe, probably, a week or two out from being dismissed for the summer. So what needs to be done is a study out there during the time when the school's in session, which will be in the fall. And then again, we need to look at just during normal times and everything else, so.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there's not currently a crosswalk there.
No, there's not. As far as I know, nobody from Kings Ridge crosses over, he and her kids cross over to go to school, yeah. As far as I know at this time. But she's just, having the complaint of just trying to get out of Kings Ridge. And if you go back to Yukon Parkway, it has its times of the day that's not too easy to get out of either, and things. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and make a motion to do a traffic study during the summer for just regular daytime driving through there. And then when school gets back into session, do another study to see, you know, the difficulty in these getting out of the neighborhood. Because I'll just leave it at that. That's the motion I put before the commission.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other comments? Discussion? Okay. Call the roll, please. For the motion.
Peters,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Puckett,
Yes.
Rather,
Yes.
Montgomery.
Yes. Okay. Okay, item number 4, the request from Life Church for a curb cut and an additional driveway at 1101 East Main Street. Go ahead.
Good evening. Patrick Altendorf with Wallace Design Collective, 410 North Walnut, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Life Church. Along with me is Colton Wayman in our office. And with Life Church is Travis Reynolds and Tim Knox. Tim is going to speak briefly on the purpose behind our request for a driveway cut for the current Life Church campus. And then I will talk a little bit about the design, the meetings we've had with city staff and ODOT, and talk a little bit about that as well.
Thank you, Patrick. Tim Knox, Life Church, 1101 East Main Street. You know, it is a joy to be able to serve in the Yukon community. It's growing, and I'm grateful for what you guys do for our community. Over the past 15 years, Life Church has been at the intersection of Yukon Parkway and Main Street, and we've seen incredible growth around us, both commercially and also residential. And so with growth comes traffic and more cars and congestion and things like that. And so over the years, we've tried a variety of things, one of those being adding services to spread people out throughout the day. But we keep coming back to the same challenge of Yukon Parkway being congested most of the day on Sundays. Now, for our services, there are times when there might be 100 cars that are leaving the parking lot, or there might be times where there's 400 cars leaving the parking lot. But it creates quite the challenge on Yukon Parkway. So what we'd like to do is add a right turn in and a right turn out on the southeast side of our property on Main Street. And so what this will do is that it'll split our parking lot pretty much in half, where half the cars will be directed towards that side and the other half will be directed towards the existing exit side. And so with this will come fewer cars on Yukon Parkway. Hopefully the neighbors will be happier with this. Hopefully there's less traffic congestion. So that's what we're hoping for, is just to be able to see Yukon Parkway less congested and traffic moving better.
Okay. All righty.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to talk a little bit about the design. I worked actually with Mr. Montgomery on the design during his time at ODOT. So our initial coordination began with city staff and with ODOT in August of last year. We had a kickoff meeting to discuss the overall location of the plan, and then we were provided some feedback from Mr. Montgomery and ODOT and also city staff. We worked with Robbie Williams and Mitchell Hort and Danielle as well throughout that process. We then had a follow-up call with more detailed drawings on October 3rd, and then we submitted our ODOT driveway permit in January of this year. During the design, we collected traffic counts from the different services, and we provided that to ODOT and the city to justify our design on the length of the taper and the length of our queue for the deceleration lane. We submitted that permit in January, and it was approved by ODOT on February 7th of this year. And once that was approved, then we were formally put on this agenda for formal review so that we can then proceed to Planning Commission and City Council.
Okay.
And we are here to we are happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Have you addressed the issue of what the city engineer is referencing as far as the width of the turn bay?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
so we did revise that to 15 feet.
Okay. Is that gonna cause any problem with drainage through there that you know of? Because you're having to install a pipe through here.
Yeah, so all the drainage we've effectively designed have head walls, and we're able to effectively convey the drainage under our drive.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
And when you're talking about the comment they had right here regarding making that from 19 to 15, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
well, I thought they were talking more of the turn bay than they were the actual, as they come in off the turn. Was there any reason why they wanted 15?
It was per the city detail that they had in the code.
Okay. I mean, 15, I could understand if maybe someone was going to pull in a pickup truck and a trailer possibly, but, I guess the other thing too, they probably thought it was gonna be too tight for someone to turn in there. Well, since we give them a turn bay to slow down and turn in there, a 12-foot width would've been fine, but I'm not gonna argue with the engineer on this. And things, because I mean, your larger pickups can make that turn within with a 12-foot wide portion to there. But again, I've just want to see if you address that and everything.
Yeah, to my knowledge, we've addressed all of the city comments.
Okay. All right. Okay. I have no other questions on this. Anybody else?
No, I can tell you firsthand. I used to work out there for Life Church, and the problem exists out there on Yukon Parkway, and I can tell you firsthand. I was directing the traffic out there as a law enforcement officer, and there was many times that there was trying to get the church people out. It was moving slow. Traffic coming on Yukon Parkway, it got congested, it got backed up. There was a couple of situations where there was almost some traffic accidents. So I think the proposal here, I like it. It's going to open it up to, like Tim said, two different ways, two different areas to go out and stuff. And I can tell you first, it was a headache for law enforcement out there, that we wasn't working accidents and stuff, so.
Okay. Any other discussion?
How long is the deceleration lane?
So the taper itself is at 10 to 1 based on the width of the lane. So it's a 12-foot lane, so we did a 10 to 1 taper, which would be 120 feet. The actual lane is, I believe, 100 feet, which exceeds the minimum requirement that we were held to, which was based on the traffic count. So we actually exceed the minimum length required.
The speed drops there, right? Just before that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I know the city has made a request to drop the speed limit through there, and before I left, I had not heard anything about it from the city or anything else. I know Mr. Hort was looking at this to get it done. So if it hasn't been done, it's back in their court in discussions with ODOT to get that speed reduced there. I recommended 45, drop it from 55 to 45 and things. So again, it's back in the city's court in their dealings with ODOT to get it dropped and everything, which would take a study and all that, so, okay. Anything else? Any other comments? Okay, if not, motion to approve the permit for the driveway for Life Church there at 1101 East Main.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, carries. Thank you. Okay, next item. Discussion of pet flags, crosswalks where they may be useful at. As you're coming forward, there is a picture that I got off of Google Earth in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. I go there quite often for vacation out there. As you'll notice, this is a crosswalk that is mid-block, and it has the pedestrian warning sign. It also has a flashing beacon underneath it. But if you can see them, you'll see some PED flags there that are at the signal pole itself. Now, for a few years before that, they did not have those flags. So people were trying to cross their mid-block. The people there in Pagosa are good. This is it's 25 miles an hour, but they were pretty compliant letting people cross through there. They added these, it's been a few years ago when they added those PED flags to make it more visible and drivers understand, yeah, here's somebody crossing. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for doing that homework.
You're welcome.
So this whole request comes to you from our Main Street organization. One of our strategies for a downtown revitalization or transformation strategy is the walkability and connectivity of the downtown district. And I met with you several years ago to get the crosswalk and the creative crosswalk. That was a major connectivity between the city's only public parking lot and our downtown businesses. And so other things have been taking place. Last year, we were the recipients of an AARP Community Challenge Grant, and we wrote that grant for more for our event, pedestrian safety during events. If you've been to one of our downtown events, we turn the lights to red blinking. However, the cars were more concerned in making sure that other cars weren't coming and not necessarily paying attention to the pedestrians that was increased in that area. And I wanted to bring that up just to mention that the need, just like you had it represented, sir, is that the need is there to increase visibility at all times. So we finished out this grant, and due to having to change up a product that was no longer available, we ended up with a surplus of funds, and AARP gave us the clearance to buy PED flag systems. So we have 6 sets of these PED flags, and before I go further, I'm going to do a little show and tell here with you. So this is the actual mounted unit. Pretty simple, pretty small. And then each of them gets 2 of these rings. And quite simply, these flags, and I purchased the ones that have the reflective stripe on it, go, there's maybe how many ever you're gonna put on both sides of a crossing. So they take out one from one side, carry it across to the other side, and put it back. That simple, but I believe that the impact has great potential to add another layer of safety and visibility for our pedestrians. So I've worked with Arnold with our streets department and also Chief Korn in terms of pedestrian safety. And the one thing that Chief Korn had is said that if you're going to install these, they must be existing crosswalks. For instance, if we wanted to put it at a crosswalk when we do our Christmas market, that there's a lot of people that cross between 10 West Main and the other side, but there's not an existing crosswalk there, so they're basically at their own, we can't put any PED flags there, so we can't do anything about that. However, once we start looking at the existing crosswalks, then we started looking at those that are crosswalks but maybe don't have, you see the list on that first page of explanation, the ones that don't have the PED heads or the flashing signs of any types. Those in high traffic areas, the crossings with other challenges such as the badly worn lines that might not be there, and maybe compromised sight lines, those type of things, or maybe people just don't feel safe. So I put a lot of information here, more information I need to go over now, but there are some proposed areas. So Main Street, at the 9th Street crossing. So the first one is the one that would actually cross. And I'm not really sure as far as ODOT standards, if that is a challenge to put the PEG flags there for existing crosswalks or not. but Main Street at the 9th Street crossing, and that is where the Chisholm Trail crosses there. But there's a crossing on both sides. I did the aerial view. You see on both sides of that side street, there's east and west crossing. It doesn't look like they're standard ODOT crossings, but they're badly worn. So that would be one that I would suggest at least on one of those sides, east or west. I believe that the west one doesn't necessarily have an existing pole on one of those sides. I also wanted to point out where the second photo on that page says limited sight lines. That going from the east towards that area, and I took this afternoon, walking up that area, and I got pretty close to take this picture. And so the sight lines are pretty limited. So if somebody is crossing, you may not see them in time to slow down for them.
What intersection are you talking about again? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, this is 9th Street where it crosses Main Street. And all of the pictures on that page are from that area right there.
Okay.
You know, where that standard sign is, and you see the conditions of the crossings there. Now, I did notice, since I have been in this position, these, the yellow signs there have been put in place, and that's on both sides. But that's just in the median. It says stop for pedestrians. And, you know, there's a lot of things going on in that area that you're looking at. I'm not sure how long those signs have been there, but I just noticed them today when I went to take pictures of that. So I would suggest that extra layer could be very beneficial in that area. Unless you stop me, I'm going to move on. And then the next one, the next page, talks about South 5th Street at the alleyway. So that's a creative crosswalks that we put in. This city constructed a brand new crosswalk there. That's all good and fine. They did add just a few months ago that sign that says no parking, because it used to be a parking spot, and I think that people that had always parked there still work in the area and still want to claim that spot, so they put that no parking at any time there, and it has helped. I've never seen a vehicle there since. However, there are no like ped heads or anything like that. So that is actually the bottom two pictures of when we did a demonstration and had them temporarily installed for a day. And you can see some of the crossing and how that looks there. That was very helpful there. But additionally, the next page shows you the same street but up at Main Street. And that was one that, look at those crossing stripes. Or they're not there. So all of the rest of them have been painted recently, but for some reason that, I don't know if it's concrete, you know, the surface condition or what, but that one was not painted when all the rest of those side crossings were painted. And so Danielle, this is when she had surgery, so she was crossing, and we even put out that event crossing sign just to give her a little bit more time there. And so you can see that one, and that does have a ped head there with the timer. But this is one that I would suggest might be for consideration to place it because of the missing crosswalk. So when vehicles are there, they're not looking at the pedestrian crossing. They're looking at the pavement markings and for other vehicles. And if there's nothing there, then they just assume there's probably not pedestrians there as well. Conversely, the one at the bottom is the same side of the road crossing at South 4th Street, and you can see that those crossing stripes are new and just a few months old. However, with our polling of pedestrians and just public, this is an area that they identified that they just don't feel real safe crossing because of the traffic that's there, the in and out constantly there. I'm sorry, I had more, the Main Street at this. So this is the crossing of Main Street at the 5th Street. And we included that one in our demonstration as well.
And that crossing is obscured by Yukon National Bank if you're coming from the west. So I can see why that
The
would
one on the previous page?
feel unsafe. No, where you're looking at crossing South 4th at Main.
Yep, you're exactly right. And just the vehicles in and out, and sometimes a lot of commercial vehicles, a lot more commercial vehicles are going in and out of there than what they would at 5th Street, just because I think the turning radiuses and or radii, I guess. And then, so the next one, unless you have more question or comment, the next one is Main Street at Fifth Street Crossing. And we included that in the demonstrations. So at the bottom there, the very last picture, I want to point out to this, we had two of our seniors, volunteers crossing, and they indicated, they did it a couple of times, and they said, you know what? We just don't feel like there's enough time for us to cross. And we gave them the pedestrian flags, and they carried it, and they had a little bit more confidence, but the surface is so broken up and uneven right there that they just felt that if they were rushed, that's problematic. And so you see the very last one there, the crossing, that hand came up. Their time was up before they got across. And so they're facing two different things. Either we add to their visibility, or they're just not going to come because they're afraid of crossing. And, if they did fall for some reason, that could even put them in more peril. So.
Okay. A couple of things you brought out about pedestrian timings on that. I see here that they're just about to get on the curb there when the steady hand's there. Was the steady hand on when they were,
Yes.
Somewhere in the crosswalk?
Yeah, so we engaged, the timer. So it had, the walk, don't walk thing, and it was about 2 steps before this.
Okay. That's not necessarily an unsafe condition. If they're that close to the curb, unless somebody just wanting to drag race, they're still at that point of getting across, onto the sidewalk if they're that close and things. And these are not countdown?
Pardon me?
But they're not countdown pads? They're just
It
shows a
is,
steady walk?
No,
and
it
they're-
is the white pedestrian symbol, and then it starts flashing the numbers, and that was,
Okay.
so again, it's, part of this is how they feel, because if they feel like they're being rushed and should rush themselves when they maybe don't have the same mobility as I might, or, somebody even younger than me might have, then especially on that uneven concrete, if they fall, or their fear of falling, and that's not what we want our pedestrians to feel. We want them to feel that it's a safe place for them and welcome for them, for everybody.
Do you know how long they have to walk as
I-
they're crossing Main Street here? Do you know?
I think it might start out at 10 or 12, maybe.
Okay.
I
It may not be bad, but for me, I can get across this within that 12. I know that. I know as you get older and stuff, it takes a little longer to get there. So probably what we need to look at is see if we can extend that time. The problem is this is also tied into the signal at the same time. So that means if we extend the PED timing, on this, they've got to extend the signal timing as well. Okay?
Correct.
That's not a problem
Yeah.
or anything.
And like I said, so, this all evolved from AARP into making, safe downtowns for everybody, and especially our seniors.
Sure.
And so those mobility challenges are the ones we really wanted to come out and demonstrate these things to kind of learn what their experience was. So
Okay.
thank you for those comments. So the last photo there is one that was my personal experience. There's some of the side roads I don't travel a lot, but I did travel one day on Holly, the area that's between the school and the parks there. And I was just going along, and somebody stepped out that I never saw there. And like I said, I don't travel it a lot, so I didn't see it. And I thought, like, oh, there's no ped heads here. That would be a great place for these ped crossing signs. So just as an example. And then the rest of that is, those are what I needed to turn in, those comment cards. I needed to create some statements from people of what their pedestrian experience was and how they felt, the need and both the experience. So I just wanted to share those with you.
Sure.
As well. So I have 6 of these sets. And so we have additional ones, and I thought maybe if I talk with you, that you might be aware of some other ones people may have expressed to you, where places weren't safe or could, again, use that extra level visibility and sense of security.
I know middle school, the old high school, the kids cross there, they have the pedestrian and the flashing there. But again, there's no flags there either. Now, I don't know, I don't think, somebody can correct me on this, I don't think those kids from middle school cross over to go over to the deli shop there to eat lunch, as far as I know. But I have driven through there. I got caught by the kids at school, and there were kids, you know, trying to cross there. The problem is also that's the same time everybody's trying to get in there and get their kids and trying to get out. So you got a row of cars on one side, northbound,
Yeah.
that block that crossing for a time. So if you got a kid crossing and then you got somebody over in the next lane to it, even though they're doing 25, if they're not real careful and everything, yeah, there's going to be a kid get hit there. So that may be a place to consider, particularly during school hours, if kids, and I've seen kids cross through there, to have flags there too. That way, when they got the cars on the inside or the outside lane, they can have that where they can, and make sure that it's out there where the car can see them. Then, you know, we can avoid that issue. And it's probably good, you know, both morning and afternoon as well. The next one's just right down north of that is the St. John's School. Now, again, the times I go through there are no kids crossing there. So that means, I guess I'm looking at elementary predominantly for that. So they're letting that be a little earlier than the middle school kids. But I've not seen the back up. Of course, they can pull people around the back and everything like that. So it's not a problem there. However, you never know, somebody may want to cross there, you know, and it's not that well lit at night either.
I think
So-
that it does help that they have, you know, that those are in school zones. But again, people are just in those situations are paying attention to going down to the, hopefully, the speed limit and not necessarily that awareness of crossing. And if it's not done very much, you know, then your alertness goes down.
Yeah. But again, like I say, if they're at the middle school, I'd look at that
Okay.
for sure. The other question I had is about the lighting, particularly here at 5th Street and even 4th Street. I know the times when we get into our winter months and stuff, it's dark. And I know just right here, lighting just is not adequate, period. 4th Street, I think there by the bank is a little bit brighter, but then if you try to cross over to the other side, on the north side, it's not that bright either.
Are you talking about crossing over Main Street or crossing
Yeah.
over 4th Street?
Yeah.
Right,
From
I
4th,
agree.
I mean, 5th here, like I said, it's not lit up enough to actually show the crossings and the intersection itself. 4th Street, like I said, on the south side, it's lit up a little bit better, but on the north side, it's not at all. And that may be due to some utility issues or whatever. So those are some things that I think need to be recommended to the city to look at strongly, getting better lighting, particularly here at Main, along Main here from between 4th and 5th. The lighting out there now is decent. You're probably looking at the light bulb fixtures probably need to be replaced here within a few years and stuff like that too. But again, work with the city on that and see how that can happen. As far as 5th and 4th Street, like I say, the lighting there needs to be improved quite a bit. Because that would make it safer for the pedestrians at night to cross when you have these events. You mentioned you put the signals on flashing.
During events, so when I have a city special event permit, one of the things that we've worked with, what I call my event logistics team of all the different departments, is safer crossing, because, you know, if you consider that, especially that historic block between 4th and 5th Streets, you know, we do things so the businesses are open late and such. And when we do that, there's a lot of crossing back and forth. And so what we had determined, we would do it at Christmas time, we do it again during our Cruising for a Cause that we have in the fall. And so, what we've determined together was during those event times, because it's very heavy traffic, foot traffic, is to turn the lights to red blinking there. And typically for those, the side streets at 4th and 5th, at least one of the ways is blocked as well. So it's more just straight through.
Okay.
And when we do that, we recognized the need to have something additional for the pedestrians, a message to the motorist of the presence of pedestrians. So the grant, before we got the ped flags, the grant, I purchased 10 like free standing signs with a heavy rubber base, so they were standing in the middle of the lanes of traffic there, and they have flashing features on them, and so from both sides, and it is reflective as well, and it says like yield for pedestrians or event traffic is what it says. So I have those. I have some other signs that I bought for event parking. They're temporary, freestanding roll-off signs that will say event parking, and so that is kind of meant to manage that traffic so you don't have people circulating around looking for parking. But those 10 freestanding has helped quite a bit because people see that before they get up to the intersection, and we do that on both sides.
Okay. Is there any discussion maybe doing a mid-block there between 4th and 5th for a crosswalk?
Again, the chief police says that only where existing crosswalks are.
Okay.
As far as the ped flags and those signs even.
Okay. And again, my question is, have you considered putting a mid-block crossing there?
A crosswalk? I would love to just be able to wish those things because I have a very long list. I have a very long list, and I appreciate your questions because they echo my safety thoughts as well. But this is something that we can do. And so we're starting there. And in some of the other things that we've done, we brought great attention to things, and then they've evolved into other projects. So that's more the approach that we're taking. We're just, the city side of me, but then the programming side of Main Street is a volunteer-driven organization, so 501c3. So we're doing what we can as we can do it.
Okay.
So just to recap your comments, what do you feel about those recommendations that I made, and then more specifically about any additionals?
Okay. Make sure I understand. You'd be using these predominantly during some type of an event?
So the
around here?
ped flags would be a permanent installation. Now, how often we put flags in the holders could be, flexible.
Okay, but are you looking at just when you have events here?
No.
Is that then? Okay.
No.
Is there any reason they wouldn't be there permanently, the flags?
Well, the holders would be there permanently. I would love to have them there all the time. The caveat to this is that there might be a couple of locations where those flags would come up missing, like over the weekend, and I don't have just an endless budget to continue buying them, and so that's a thought process.
Understood.
So what you're telling me is then these flags would be out there year-round, or what? Is that what I'm understanding?
I would definitely keep the holders for permanent installation, and then the idea, I'd like to have them available whenever pedestrians are present in those areas, and but I think that was something that we can kind of figure out if we need to maybe pull the flags at certain times.
Who would be responsible for putting the flags out, pulling them back?
And that's something we would take on, whether it's a business volunteering to put them out that's in the location, or if, myself and or my volunteer staff would do that. But I would definitely keep a monitor on them to see when they're missing, and
It's not that burdensome, but I mean,
Right.
someone has to be in charge of them.
Well, I go water the planters too,
Sure.
so I'm up and down Main Street all the time,
Sure.
and so are our volunteers and board members. And so I would not put more than just a couple of flags out at any location at any given time. I don't want them to see a surplus of them. And there are instructions right on the holder. I missed that earlier. There are instructions of how to use it as well.
The holder's just 4-inch PVC and a cap.
It is.
essentially.
It is. Mm-hmm.
With bands to attach them to the pole.
And so any nearby pole, when we did the demonstrations, our streets department just found easy solutions for it, and I just kind of left it up to them. And they knew which crossing we were targeting. They just put them up where they needed to be, and they said just simple to put up, and it's not wear and tear on the poles. And so poles of different sizes, different types. If anybody wants to see this closer.
I noticed in one of the pictures, I guess they're at Fifth Street, get there. It's at night. Let me see if I can find her.
The little girl?
Yeah, May and Fifth, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing you need to consider is, what if you got someone in a wheelchair? Okay, you're not gonna be able to reach that. So what you're having to look at is bring it down to about where the PED button is at.
Certainly. That's
do
a
that and
very
stuff.
good, very good guidance there.
So,
Very good. We worked with a group from Spanish Cove when we first applied for this grant and got the award in, and I interviewed several of the residents there. And one of the ladies, I asked her the question, I won't call out her name, but said, how often do you go downtown? She said, Yukon? And I said, yes, to the Main Street area. How often? She says, I never do. And I said, well, why is that? I fully expected her to say, because there isn't any businesses, where she does her shopping online. And she cited the safety and the crossing and, in the conditions of the sidewalks and in the roads. And so we had a lot of good conversations there. And as I mentioned, any little thing that we can do that just helps one person or makes them feel more comfortable, safe, or just that they're visible is a good thing.
yeah. About the only thing that concerns me is having them out there permanently, because, like I said, at Fifth Street here in Maine, if the issue is the amount of time to walk across, particularly Main Street, that can be addressed by lengthening the time to cross and things, which again, like I said, it'll affect the signal timings as well because they're kind of tied together. That's my only concern. Now, at night, I can see this and everything. We got 'em flashing with people driving through here. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a little bit more conspicuousy of people crossing there. And again, like I said, the other issue is the lighting at these intersections. That could be much improved as well. Again, that's something we can bring up with Arnold about and talk about, Public Works. Like I said, that's my only concern, but, as far as what you brought to us tonight, it's a good idea, and I appreciate it, and I thank you for it and everything. I'm not quite at that point where I need the extra time to get across, but I understand.
Right, so I'm looking for the guidance and to get to a point where you're more comfortable recommending to City Council. And if that is, go ahead and put it here, we're gonna recommend you put it in these two, but maybe we'll do some more work on these two. We're good with that, every little bit as I mentioned. So anything you're comfortable moving forward on now or something I can do to help get you there as well.
Okay.
Is this where most of the pedestrian traffic is, just right out here? Where you have in the photos?
Yeah, when you
So
have-
I would say the most walkable district, the most walkable area in terms of where the people are needing to walk is in this district, of this block, I should say, because the buildings are shared walled. You know, so the concept for this is you park once and visit many different businesses, or people from the neighborhoods come in, which when you go out further from that one block, which I call the 400 block because that's their addresses, then you have more locations that have independent parking areas. So in terms of that transition from motorist to pedestrian, this is the greatest area. However, there is a significant, not as significant amount of foot traffic that does, you know, that does travel up and down the roads.
I would recommend, I like the idea. Yeah, I would recommend putting them here as a starting point. You have 6. I would put them on all 4 corners, and then the 2 that you have here in the special walkway, or at least the holders. So that would be my recommendation if we're going to install them.
Okay. Okay, so in the 9th Street, you're not comfortable with that one? Where the Chisholm Trail crossing is?
So from what I could see from your photo,
Right.
it doesn't look like the crosswalks are even painted, and maybe that's something we can bring up with Arnold. But it doesn't look like they're. Maybe that's just a work order we need to have with Public Works for all these to be repainted.
You know, as we get further and closer to the Route 66 Centennial, I had 3 people come in to have me stamp their passports today, and these are people that are coming into our parking area. And the best thing we can do is make it easy for them to put their money in our businesses.
Agreed.
Okay.
What's the cost of these?
Oh my goodness. I don't recall. I think I got all 6 sets with extra flags. I think it was right about $900. Shipping and all that.
Okay.
And like I said, I did upgrade to get the reflective.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All righty. Item number 6. Discussion of appointed traffic commissioners' attendance. And this is coming out of section 2, 327, appointment of members, paragraph B there, dealing with attendance. Open it up to discussion on this. Anybody has any,
I'm not
comments?
sure our missing member tonight would be tested.
Okay,
Be 1/2 of all meetings in 6 months.
yeah.
I may be wrong, but I bet you she's got
Oh, yeah.
its record show that we can get it out.
She does. She does. Because it has been brought up prior to this, and I think I was probably about 1 step away from recommending that he be dismissed from the board at that point. But his sponsor, for lack of a better word, convinced him to come, and he showed up for about 2 meetings, and now it's back to the old habit of not showing up. So that's something I can discuss with you, Jessica, later about this and things. I mean, it's not hard to, come to these board meetings, and I know there are times that things, at times where you may have to last minute, like I did last month, have to call in and let them know that you won't be there. That's the other thing I think, if we want to address, is also if you're not going to be here, let her know. and everything. And if it gets to the point where we won't have a quorum for that meeting, then she can send out to whoever may be there that there won't be a meeting and things. So I think that'd be something that needs to be considered as well. Because it's a lot easier to let her know that you won't be there, and things can carry on from there. Like I say, if it gets down to the point where we don't have a quorum, which is 3, then she can call it off. A quick text or whatever it may take. Okay. Anything else about this? Okay, if not, let's get on to the traffic concerns. Mr. Rather?
Well, I'm a little, Vicki, were you wanting us to make some kind of recommendation or on your proposal tonight? Because we just kind of left it.
From what this is, yeah, from what it is here, this was just a discussion on this, and things. If we need to, say, prove it and stuff, I don't have a problem with it. We can do that. I think this is just more of a discussion.
I'm all for putting that.
Okay. And things.
And that's, thank you for asking, but that is what I was kind of looking for, is your, recommendations on moving forward. So if
Okay.
you mentioned you're not comfortable with it just yet, so.
Well, it's not so much, the fact is that you're leaving the flags out there. And like I said, if we have PED signals out there along with the street, the signals and everything, why do we need them during the daytime? If you're looking, I can understand you're wanting to use it at night, when you do have the signals set on flashing and everything to make it more conspicuous for the drivers to pick up and everything. But to leave them out there all day, like the issue or the picture I brought in about Pagosa Springs. Now those are out there probably 24/7. Though most of the pedestrian traffic that happens is during the day and everything. It's a small town, so come 5, 6 o'clock, they, as they say, roll up the street and they go home for the evening. In most cases. Now there's other things further on either side of this that, there's some pedestrians walking around, but it's not as much. So,
Is there a reason to not have them out in the day? Is there a reason to not have flags and a head or whatever you're calling it? Is there a reason not to have both?
there's not a reason. There's not a reason necessarily for it. Not having them out there all, 24, all day and everything like that.
Okay.
But if we're just addressing an issue that happens during the evening hours when you have events and stuff like that during the evening, I mean, that's great.
The demonstration that I did was on a Saturday morning, and so, it was right at the day. Remember, there's 2 of those locations that don't have heads. They're crossing, well, I respect your, notions about the, 9th Street, but where the creative crosswalk is, it's almost hidden and unexpected.
Mhm.
So, probably that was, one that I would say was the number 1 priority.
Yeah.
And then, even the one out at Main Street where the crossings are not there and they're not adjacent, that would be like the 2 priority. And that
Okay.
does have a head, but the markings aren't there, so the flags could be helpful.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Well, I would make a recommendation that we go ahead and put those up in the
Okay.
couple of places she mentioned.
All right. I'll second it behind you
All right.
with my,
I appreciate it.
you're welcome. All righty. Anything else, sir?
Need a vote?
Vote. I'm sorry. Call it.
Aye.
All in favor?
Puckett,
Aye.
Rather,
Aye.
Peters,
Aye.
Montgomery.
Aye. I'm sorry. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Tim?
I have no concerns on my side.
Oh, and I agree with what you're talking about, the striping there along Main Street, Highway 66, Route 66 there. that entire stretch through there from Garth Brooks all the way through here needs to be restriped. And the pavement, of course, like you say, is in horrible condition and everything. I do know that, unfortunately, unless they move it up, they were looking at doing a mill and overlay through here after the Centennial. Now, again, it could be brought up, but it's going to be extremely tight for them to do it and everything. But it does need to be restriped. Crosswalks, the entire, all of it and everything. So I can put a bug in somebody's ear. I still have contacts to get it done, possibly. I'll say that. Other than that, nothing else. I will say, I know where I live over on Brookhurst, they have replaced quite a few panels there along on the street. I know they've probably been in other places around town as well. So it's to our own thank you, getting some of those places over there on my side of town taken care of and everything, and all that. All right, if there's no further discussion, our next meeting is June the 10th. We are adjourned.